Hello, Exiles. This is Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and welcome to my updated build guide for Frost Blades Trickster. I'm going to be going over some changes I made. The full video where I go over everything in depth is going to be linked in the description. And when Path of Building finally updates, I'll update that in the description of this video, of the original video, and I'll also make sure to put it in a pinned comment so that people don't miss it. But currently Path of Building still hasn't updated, so I decided to just go through and update everything. I've got a bunch of new notes. I've got a new leveling route. We're skipping Spectral Helix, even if it's still good. I found another method that works pretty well. And I'll go over all of that. So first thing you might notice, actually I should explain, if you didn't watch the first video, how you'll navigate this is I have all of the important different stages as well as a couple of just for fun things like a min-max tree at the end. But I have all of the important things like different leveling thresholds kind of put through here. All you have to do is match your level, the monster enemy level, and then like any appropriate, like I'm probably not going to be running frenzy or power charges, for instance. But yeah, you just make sure everything's set up in configuration, make sure your level matches, and then make sure all three trees match. So for instance, if I'm level 24 to 34, I would select that for the tree, the items, and the skills. Another thing to note, the items in here are not meant to be like things you're actually going to get. They're just kind of the kind of gear you're going to be looking for. So that's very important. I wanted to clarify a few things. So even right here, level 1 through 12, you notice there's going to be a slightly different thing. I did decide to pick up Elemental Focus right away for some extra damage. And then we're going to rush down to Charisma after that instead of going straight through to rush down to Charisma. Possibly may even want to do a cold-hearted calculation, but the timing with this build, we are going to be using Blade Trap as our boss killer for the first couple of acts, and with that we're going to want skitterbots as well. And in order to have like precision, clarity, skitterbots, and Herald of Ice, we're going to need charisma. So the way that it was previously timed without taking these 2 points, you would get it right after going up the right side in Act 2 and getting the Baleful Gem. Now it will be when you go through Western Forest, get the waypoint, and then get the skill point. It should be, you should get one level at least there along with the skill point for completing that. So the timing should still be before Weaver, which will help a lot, and it'll give you a lot of damage. So that's the first change. Second change, we're no longer using Dash. We're now using Frost Blink. This is for 2 reasons, and we will be using Frost Bomb for exposure throughout everything. So Frost Bomb has a higher baseline exposure of 15 compared to 10 on Hydrosphere. Also reduces life and energy shield regeneration rate. The main reason we're doing this is because Frost Blink leaves, first of all, Frost Blink does a lot of damage early on, so you can help it with clearing packs. All you have to do is Frost Blink through a pack and turn around and stab them once with Frost Blades, and they usually die, or leave a Frost Bomb on top of them and then Frost Blink over them, and they'll usually die, so it's good for leveling a bit faster. Second of all, we're going to do this so that we can apply Bone Chill. So if we look into some of the later trees, we're going to have, it'll be this one starting here. We're going to have Frost Blink linked with Bone Chill. So it was discovered that Bone Chill is currently bugged, and if it applies a chill that's weaker than one that's applied by a different skill, in our case Frost Blades, and considering how much damage our Frost Blades is going to be doing, it'll be very significant. It's basically overwritten, it's deleted. You can get around this, however, by having Chilling Ground, which can't be overwritten, and Frost Blink leaves will leave the chilled ground both at the departure and the arrival location. And in fact, if you do 2 small Frost Blinks, it's basically just a huge chilled ground area type thing. So that'll keep applying your bone chill, and that'll make sure you don't miss out on that. Enemies take 30% more damage you'll get from bone chill. So those are kind of the big changes to the skills. The next thing is we will be using Blade Trap specifically for the first 2 acts. Why Blade Trap and why only for the first 2 acts? Well, first of all, Frost Blades with its new damage effectiveness, once it scales up a few levels, should be doing a pretty adequate amount of damage. I tested it as is, and it usually picks up around the time you get Hatred and your 4-link already. But with the new damage effectiveness, that should be even more powerful. But the next thing is Blade Trap is very bad against, especially in the beginning when it doesn't yet have any radius, against bosses that move around a lot. Merveil and Vol Oversoul do not move around a lot. Merveil blinks, but she'll stay in one location for a very long time. This is also very good against Creighton and Oak in Act 2, where you can set up your max amount of traps on top of them and then select kill when we go to help Alira. So this is going to be used all the way through the first 2 acts, and we'll probably switch out of it right around the time right after Crematorium when we get Hatred and we start looking for our 4-link. So that's the new setup. We should have a little bit more damage even on top of the extra damage we're going to get from Frost Blades, but Frost Blades will be used pretty much all the way up through that. So I'm just going to go over additional notes I've made. If you do want a mule, I used to recommend muling a Scion. Scion takes forever to kill Hillock. Absolutely forever. It's really bad for that. It's not worth it just to get Onslaught, which you're going to get from the Mercy mission anyway. If you do want to mule, I'd recommend Duelist, because then you can do the first 2 quests, Breaking Some Eggs and Mercy mission. That'll net you Ancestral Protector, Steel Skin, and Onslaught, which you can use right away if you don't level. And it will also get you an extra Quicksilver Flask and extra scrolls and everything. 2 extra checks at the shop, at least 2, probably 2 in the way that I've got it set up, because I only go to back to town once after you initially get into town. So that will give you 2 extra chances at the 3-linked green item that you're going to need, and move speed boots. And also you can sell 3 of the small life flasks you'll get, the 2 that you'll get on the Shadow and the 2 that you'll get on Duelist. 3 out of those 4 to guarantee a medium life flask and at least 2 small mana flasks as well, because we do a lot of spamming mana flasks in the beginning because, well, a lot of skill spamming going on and we don't have a lot of regen or any leech yet. So this could be helpful if it takes, I did a few runs of it. It takes about 7 minutes. Duelist is pretty strong for clearing the first couple of quests, because you can, he kills Hillock pretty quickly overall, probably the second fastest after Shadow. And then he also gets Splitting Steel, which is quite strong early on for doing the Breaking Some Eggs and killing all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he's just relatively quick. It shouldn't take you any more, even if you're kind of taking your time and killing a lot of things, it shouldn't take you more than 10-15 minutes. And if you're going at that pace, it shouldn't matter too much anyway. Maybe you should just play the Shadow, but generally it took me around, give or take, 7 minutes to do these and like check the shops and everything combined. So it's a pretty quick process and can start you out strong. And then some of the other stuff is pretty much the same, but I've added additional tips like look out for armor and armor evasion hybrid items. These will help you with the Rose and Mudflats as well as Brutus. A lot of stuff in the first half of the first act does a lot of physical damage. So I just wanted to let people know in case they didn't know, because a lot of people are saying they were having trouble with Brutus. And I also added another additional tip here. I think this is the same. Oh, a couple of additional tips. Buy an extra mana flask before Brutus if you don't have at least 1 medium and 1 small one already. You can probably find a large mana flask when you go to get your added cold gem, which is only 3 wisdom scrolls. So ideally you'll be able to pick that up. Brutus it's very, if you have one small mana flask, by the time you get to Brutus, if you haven't made any upgrades, you are 100% going to run out of mana during the Brutus fight. The Brutus fight is basically you're going to drop Frost Bomb, Frost Blink over the top of him, and then spam Frost Blades at him. Another thing that I didn't mention, so you don't need to actually use a claw until late Act 2 or early Act 3 because we're not getting any claw specific nodes. Whirling Blades requires a claw, dagger, or one-handed sword, as does Blade Trap. They have the same requirement. So you can use any, all the way through those points, the highest damage claw, dagger, or one-handed sword you get, you can use. And for Brutus, when we don't have any of those requirements, such as having to use a one-handed weapon at all, we can just use the highest damage weapon we get. The highest base damage that we can equip with the stats that we have with our attributes is the second tier two-handed weapon that you can get, which is, I believe, a level 8. Yeah, I think it's a level 8 sword. I don't remember what it's called. I probably should have noted that down, but you can check, and you can buy it either for a whetstone or a transmute if you have extra transmutes from the vendor, and then just use an essence. And also just generally do not be afraid to use essences as soon as you get them, especially on weapons, like, and watch out for all of the weapon upgrades. Like, as soon as ledge, you can start getting like a one-handed sword upgrade. You can get the second tier of various weapons, and right towards the end of the act, right before the caverns, in the great ship graveyard, you can start getting the tier 3 ones, such as all. In fact, you can start getting like a scimitar or whatever, the third tier of sword, pretty early too. So just watch out for those upgrades. People who think that you're forced to use a claw might have a hard time with Brutus because they might be sitting there with like a driftwood claw that they got early on, or whatever the first tier claw is, when they could have been using like a two-handed sword with 1-17 lightning damage on it or something that they found. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, you should probably identify, a decent amount of the one-handed, or the bigger items that you get rather early on, even though you'll be selling some of them. Like, you can't use a two-handed maul or a two-handed axe because you won't have the strength for it, so you can just sell those unID'd for transmute scrolls. So that's pretty much all of the updates. One thing, I guess, use Blade Trap for Merveil. Swap the gems so that the Blade Trap setup is in the 3-link with added cold and swift assembly. And then you just want to drop traps on her and keep Frost Bomb up. You can set up a decent amount of traps before she even is able to be damaged, and you can burst her down real quick that way. Traps have a built-in not being able to be damaged for like a second or two now, so you can actually use traps on Merveil, which used to not be the case. They used to be able to be destroyed by her AoE right away. So that's something that's very important to note. So whenever she moves around, just throw a bunch of traps on her, keep your Frost Bomb up. You shouldn't even need to use Frost Blades at all during the Merveil fight. Similar thing with the Vol Oversoul fight in Act 2. So that's going to cover all of that. Going on to the next set of stuff, our tree routing is going to be a little bit different. So we'll go ahead and set all of that up. All right, and then we're going to go to level 24. So we have that, and we're going to set these to 24 as well. All right, so new setup here. We are now going to pick up Life Raker. These all give in combined 22 attack speed, which is considerable, and it also allows us, the very next thing we'll do after this at level 25 is pick up the leech on this. So this will allow us to get leech much earlier than we were getting previously, so when we do transition fully into Frost Blades, that will be the big thing. By the time you hit 24, you should have killed Vol Oversoul at this point, so we'll be able to drop Blade Trap, but I still have this for up until this point. Vol Oversoul takes forever to come up, so you just drop a bunch of traps where he's going to be. You should be able to reach max traps and then continue to add traps once they trigger, and you should be able to burst him down quite quickly. Other than that, at this point, once we have the charisma and everything, our full setup is going to be precision. You might have to keep some of these lower level. As you can see, my unreserved mana is kind of low, so you might have to like temporarily have precision a little bit lower, or possibly clarity, or both. We are dropping clarity anyway, but we do want to make sure we have enough mana regen to make sure that we're able to like spam everything we need to spam, basically. So it's possible you could just keep precision at like level 1 or 2 and start leveling up later. You'll make up for the experience and you're not really going to miss it. That way you have more unreserved mana. But if you get any mana on gear, since these are flat reservations, you should have more than enough. So that's pretty much the setup for that. And I think that's the real only notable thing on the tree. So the very first 4-link you get, I have this at level 24. Chances are you won't yet have this. You'll just have these. You won't have elemental damage with attacks actually linked yet. If you do, though, it's just nice as soon as you can get 24. So I do have this set up. Then we'll have Frost Bomb, Frost Blink still, Whirling Blades. We add faster attacks. So the 2 gems that we add here are elemental damage with attacks and faster attacks, which we add to Whirling Blades and Frost Blades, respectively. Just put this in an extra link until you're able to 4-link it. And yeah, nothing other than that is really notable. I don't even think... okay, I talk about getting your extra gems for later and putting them, although honestly... you don't even have to do that. You can just buy like Nightblade and Trinity in Act. You don't need to pick them up yet if you want to save your currency, and you can just pick them up in Act 6 later on, or even Act 9 once you get into Blood Aqueduct, because the experience they gain before that point isn't that much, and we're not going to switch into Nightblade until our 5th link anymore, so we don't need to level that up as early, and Trinity is going to be our 6th link, so that's even farther away, unless you happen to get lucky and get a 6th link early, but generally speaking, you don't need to level those up right away. Towards the end of this act, make sure you pick up a claw base, as you'll now start getting claw specific nodes, and use essences if you have any to craft one. You can also try using chance orbs, which is fine. And after, I didn't finish writing this note. After Vault Oversoul or Crematorium, you can drop Blade Trap. So just go ahead and add that real quick. There you go. All right. I didn't make any changes to the notes in this next section of the tree, but the routing is going to be a little bit different, and the skills are going to be a little bit different. I'll try not to like reiterate anything too much, but yeah, right around our first ascendancy. I didn't switch this over. We are now heading down this way, and we are going to grab Acuity, and we're going to start pathing towards here. So one of the major changes is now that Nightblade is our 5th link, we're going to be using Precise Technique on a 4-link. This is 40% more attack damage if accuracy rating is higher than maximum life. Never deal crit strikes. If we don't have Nightblade, we don't really need to go crit. So we can basically go all the way up through yellow maps without really building crit. And I tested this on the Xbox version of the game. My brother has an Xbox, so I went ahead and just played through this character, and I wanted to test out the version that ran Precise Technique, and it was pretty good. I got up through tier 5 maps pretty comfortably with it, pretty quickly with that, and just using this 4-link except multi-strike instead of onslaught, which will replace in Act 4, and I'll go over when that happens. But same thing, just literally none of the gems change. I just put slightly upgraded gear, and the tree goes over here, and I don't have any I don't think I have any additional notes for this either. I changed one of them to basically cut out Spectral Helix, since we won't be using that anymore. But outside of that, it's pretty much exactly the same. Very simple. And then 34 through 55, this is where we start seeing some more drastic changes going into our 2nd ascendancy, leading up to our 2nd ascendancy. So first thing you'll notice, since we if we do not have our, we're still going to want to kind of allocate this mastery, get a little extra damage. I now have early on taking this as 40% of physical converted to cold just to add any extra damage. There's a good reason for this. So when we get our second ascendancy, which I don't have allocated here, but when we do get it and add those frenzy charges, and this is basically the point leading up to that, we are going to be taking Poacher's Mark. Poacher's Mark, since we're not critting, we're not going to need Assassin's Mark at all. So we're now going to take as our mark on hit, Poacher's Mark. And thanks to one of my commenters, I realized we could use life tap. I tested it extensively because we have a very high life leech rate, and because we're actually getting life on hit with our claws and also with Poacher's Mark, which at this level would give 34 life on hit. I should probably make sure I'm keeping up on all of this stuff. Oop. There you go. And let's go ahead and configure this for level 55 enemy. All right. So we have all of that. I have Are You Leeching checked, because generally we will have been leeching, and we will also have killed Kitava around this point. I have shock in here. But yeah, make sure you're updating all of that stuff. So big things here, big changes to the tree. First of all, we're still going towards our frenzies, but most importantly, we're grabbing a little extra damage through here so that we're converting all of that flat physical through Poacher's Mark. As you can see here, it does get converted through that, so I wasn't sure if it would. I didn't know if it would add it after the fact, but yeah, it kind of makes sense. So we're making that to turn all of our extra physical damage into cold. We're still taking mark on hit so that we get our frenzy charges via that. We now have precise technique, and most importantly, right around this time, probably right before we go up this way, so maybe around level 51 or so, we are going to get our additional strike. You can technically even get it before you get this cold mastery. That would put it at level 47 or so, give or take. But somewhere between 47 and 51, we will get our additional strike. It's not updated in POB, but we'll get Gladiator's Perseverance, and the strike skills which target additional enemies can do so from 30% farther away is being replaced by strike skills strike one additional enemy. This is huge. This is going to make our clear way better. It's going to mean we no longer have to run a gem swap for Ancestral Call. This is really big. So we have a couple of travel nodes here, but these nodes actually aren't that bad. It's 12% attack damage, 12% attack damage, and 3% attack speed. 10% attack speed while on full life, and 40% increased damage while leeching. And we're going to be leeching most of the time. So we have a couple of wasted skills, but it's 100% worth it to be able to run an additional support gem all the time. That means we're going to be killing like rares and blue packs basically instantly while we're going through. So that's going to be rather large. We're going to have that. And also at this point, you're going to need to get cold-hearted calculations so that you can keep up with your int requirements for Frost Blink. And I haven't yet added Frost Bomb to this. Let me go ahead and do that. I thought I added that to all of them, but apparently not. And at level 55, it would be like probably what? Yeah, 14. Good enough. All right. Forgot to add that. Better save that. So I might have overlooked things. You can let me know in the comment section below if I've overlooked anything further than this. But yeah, the gear once again doesn't really matter that much. But we are going to start being able to put our frenzy charges and stuff going forward. Also, we're probably chilling for full chill effect around this point too. So I can definitely start tapping that. So that's pretty nice. We got our nice little setup here. As far as the notes for this stage of the game, this is I don't think, yeah, we already kind of went over all of that stuff. Nothing is really changed, so we'll move on to the getting through the end of the game here, or the end of the campaign rather. Get all this stuff. So now we'll have gotten our frenzy charges. We'll start picking up more life, so we get the big life nodes. And also, I make sure to get depth perception, even though we're not going crit, to make sure that our accuracy stays higher than our life. If you have really good life gear, it's possible that we could have close to 3,000 life at this point. So we want to make sure that our accuracy is staying higher. But yeah, you can get like Revenge of the Hunted and all of that stuff really good right here. And that is pretty much going to be the setup. We also will start picking up spell suppression right away now in early maps going in after that. But before we get to that point, try to get Mark on Hit Mastery for, oh, I should update this to Poacher's Mark. All right. Get this to default. Try to... Oop. It's hard to type with one hand. All right. Switch this over to dexterity so it's nice and there you go. All right. And other than that, I haven't really changed anything there. We've now added Ancestral War Chief. We're still rocking Bone Chill. Apparently, I forgot to add Frost Bomb. Well, it's a good thing I'm going through this. I forgot to add Frost Bomb again. So we'll go ahead and add that. Should be like level 16 or 17 at this point, give or take. Although we are not going to have the int requirements, so might have to keep that and Frost Blink lower level apparently. 13, but yeah, that's fine. And you can always add int to your gear or tree or jewels or whatever, but yeah, so now we have this set up. Go ahead and save that, so that's all good. We've gotten more attack speed, so our multi-strike should start feeling a lot more smooth. Gear is still mostly going to be basic rares type thing. I'm not going to go over that because, you know, that's not the point. You know, obviously we won't always have steel skin up, but we'll have it up whenever we see a big telegraphed attack. Most of the skills in the early game have that. But yeah, just Ancestral War Chiefs basically in it now. And this is what our tree should look like now up until Kitava. And of course, we'll have that additional strike as well. And we're going to stick with Precise Technique. So moving on to early maps, I don't know if... Okay, so I basically have us switching over to crit now because the... I basically figure by around 78, we should at least have a 5 link. By the time we get through, you know, all of our white maps, start getting up into yellow maps, we should have a 5 link. It should be relatively cheap to buy, should be pretty easy to craft if you're not doing that. We've started to get our spell suppression at this point. So this is looking a lot more like the previous tree I had, except for we're still rocking the additional strike, which we're going to get up until... There might be some points on this build where I have Tribal Fury anointed. I'll replace that as soon as the POB gets updated, so just keep that in mind. You can kind of ignore that. So I think that'll be starting on the next setup when we get uniques and everything. But yeah, we've got our third ascendancy. This is when we should start really getting rolling. Now we've had elusive. It should be at 110% average. Now we're consistently getting our frenzy charges, so I can check those. And I think that's usually about it as far as important things. We're probably not going to be shocking yet because we don't have yoke, unless we happen to have some, you know, lightning damage on our weapons or whatever. But yeah, this should be pretty much the setup you'll have when you get through white maps, start to get, you know, through yellow maps at around level 78 prior to getting all the other stuff. So next is 78 to 90. It'll be yellow up into like red maps, start getting all of our stuff kind of put together, start buying our uniques. This is when you should buy or magic find the uniques if you're in solo self-found, if you haven't done so yet. And yeah, we've gone fully crit. Once again, I've modified this. We're now taking freeze duration again because now we have heat shiver, so it's important. I have us on a 6 link. we've flipped our jewels at this point, so some of our support gems are probably going to be lower level. I do have Frost Bomb. I did set it up this time. We've now switched back to Assassin's Mark, and I'll go over the notes for that. Oh yeah, and I didn't go over the tips for early maps. I don't think any of that has changed. I might change some of the mapping strategy stuff, but June missions and essences are probably still going to be important, so that's all going to be, yeah, this is pretty much going to be the same. Same thing with the early yellow maps. I don't think I've changed that much. The only difference is we will no longer be able to use Conqueror's efficiency. Instead, if we want to get Grace set up early, what we would do is just swap. We'd have 2 jewels with the 2 to 3% that go on them, basically. And we'll either have better mana reservation efficiency than this or equal if we have 2 minerals, because they're going to roll from 2 to 3%, it sounds like. So, yeah, nothing too big here. Honestly, the rest is pretty much everything is covered in the guide. I haven't changed anything except for having this Gladiator's Perseverance until we get an additional strike through other means, whether that be from influence crafts using Ichors or Embers or whichever one it is, Eater of Worlds or Searing Exarch on gloves, whether that be from having Warlord's Influenced gloves, which give us an additional strike. And as soon as we get that, we just spec out of these points, and those points can go straight towards our cluster jewel. So, and yeah, at this point, we should have our last thing. So basically from here on out, nothing's changed from the previous guide. So other than our new setups with using Frost Blink to apply Bone Chill instead and using Frost Bomb as our primary exposure. Now we can actually change this Elemental Mastery to increased effective damaging ailments, making it easier to shock and chill. So now we have, once we get Heartseeker, which, you know, will be at around level 93, we can also get the 50% increased damage or non-affected ailments from that as well. So we'll have a bunch of effect of that, basically. Yeah, and the transition for the rest is the same. So I'm just going to save this, and I'm going to say between these 2 guides, you have everything you need to know to League start Frostblades now. Everything in this will be accurate, except you'll do a whole lot more damage, basically, and you will be more or less set up. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, and we would just put all this stuff. We would now have this, and we would actually be able to make use of our unique, and as you can see, the damage numbers would go quite high, and we start going up and up and up from here as we refine. I still have all of the notes on step by step how to make to get your Lethal Pride, to get your Cluster Jewel, to get your Circle of Fear, to get your Hunter Influence Shield with reduced mana reservation, to get your Watcher's Eye. All of that's kind of taken care of. So this has been Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and I will see you next time. Bye.